Hey guys, Sneaky Snake here, Brothers in Arms, World of Warships, and today's video we're going to take a look at something a little different. This is the most recent operation or scenario battle that you are able to do in World of Warships, and it is the Ultimate Frontier. You play as Tier 7 ships. I am, of course, in the Pensacola, the Tier 7 American Heavy Cruiser, and I'm divisioned up with a quartet of my buddies from APOC, Elastic Spider, 901, Captain Tyrael, and Big Bongs, and then, of course, there's two other randoms with Delaney in the Kaga and another cruiser. So, this scenario is on the hard difficulty. This is the first scenario battle where Wargaming decided to amp up the difficulty on the mission that you have to complete. And what I'm going to show you today is our 5-star run through it. This is the first time that I managed to get a 5-star doing so. And so far has actually been the only one. I've played this thing about a dozen times, most of it solo by myself. And there's just so much to do in this mission that you have to complete. There's a whole host of secondary tasks that are actually pretty difficult. And I hope this video shows you guys what you need to do to be able to take care of business. Now, here at the very beginning, there's going to be 4 main engagements that you need to focus on. The first of which is right from the get-go. There's going to be 2 enemy destroyers, an American Nicholas and Mahan class DD, respectively, that are going to be moving north in the I-8 grid square. So you need to take care of these 2 guys immediately. Now you can see we do have the benefit of an aircraft carrier on our team, which does spawn to the south of all the cruisers. So, you know, it's actually pretty easy to keep the spotting up on those guys. But the problem is that if you let those enemy DDs get away, they can cause a massive issue, because on the hard difficulty, the bots are extremely good. I'll be honest with you guys, the bots on hard difficulty are better than at least half, if not a little bit more, of the World of Warships population. Their aim is impeccable, they dodge torpedoes and shells like complete bosses, and these ships that you have to fight against are no slouch, and they are no joke. And I can't tell you how many times, you know, you're playing it, maybe getting a little too cocky, trying to move up a little bit too far, and then all of a sudden the bots just obliterate you, and it's a bit of a wake-up call, because, you know, most of the operations are pretty easy, to be honest, and this one is definitely not. So anyway, my fire burns down the Mahan, so both of those DDs are taken care of. The second thing is that you can see that there is a task force of a few battleships and a cruiser that are moving in from the H5 grid square, moving slightly east-northeast. And that is very important because there's a lot of battleships there, so you have to take care of business with those guys. But they're all of the American standard type design. There's a New York, a Wyoming, and a New Mexico that come through there. So they're very slow, they're very easy to predict where they're going to go. Now you can see on screen there are 2 diamonds that have aircraft symbols inside of them, one at 10.5 kilometers and one at about 22. Now, these are where your friendly planes, as you can see in the secondary tasks, save at least 45 planes from the aircraft reinforcement of 50. So basically, in a few minutes worth of time, your friendly airplanes are going to make their way to that C-shaped island all the way up at the northern part of the map, which houses the airfield, the aerodrome. And there's also 8 transport aircraft that you have to save out of 10 that will be flying in a few minutes as well. So you have to kill these you have to kill these cruisers that are over here. In this case, the Cleveland, which spawns right around the F10 grid square, and then there's an Omaha, which spawns around the C9 grid square. Now, sometimes there's also an enemy Atlanta that you have to deal with as well, but if you guys noticed, both of the battleships that spawned in, Big Bongs and Tyrael, they spawned all the way up at the airfield. For whatever reason, Wargaming decided to split up your heavy surface units away from the main body of the fleet, so they have to take care of those cruisers on their own, that are up there at least. Now, anyway, turning my attention back here, you can see the Cleveland is about ready to die in Echo 10, so both of the cruisers that were over there are going to be mincemeat. And then the very last thing I forgot about, as you saw, as I zoomed in, there's a Clemson that spawns right around in the F6 G6 grid area and tries to move north to try to harass your battleships. So once you're able to deal with all those threats around the perimeter of the map, then you can focus on all the enemy ships that are moving in towards the middle. Now, in my experiences playing just by myself, and you have to rely on random teammates and whatnot, Sometimes what happens is that those destroyers right at the beginning, they don't get spotted, and then they move around in the middle, and it actually is a bit difficult to be able to take care of the enemy battle group that's coming to the east, because those destroyers are in there and they're spotting you, and it's making it very difficult. And you can see that there's a lot of low-lying parts of the islands on the chain that runs up the 9 line, and the thing is that the island is so low towards the water, towards the sea level, that you're not able to stealth fire over the island. So, you know, cruisers like the Flint or the Belfast are extremely valuable to bring, but of course you need somebody to be able to spot. Now, something else, is it worth it to bring an aircraft carrier? In my opinion, yes. Obviously, when you're dropping into queue by yourself, there's no control whether you're going to be given an aircraft carrier by one of your buddies or not. But if you're trying to division up to do this, then I do highly suggest to bring an aircraft carrier. In this case, the other 2 guys that were with us, one of them has a Kaga, which is nice. Very good strike capability against enemy ships, and has a couple of decent fighters to roam about as well. Now, something that you'll notice when the planes, the friendly planes for that matter, eventually make their way to the airfield, the bot-controlled planes actually fly around and do missions. You know, they drop bombs, they drop torpedoes, they send fighters out to try and take care of other enemy aircraft that are in the area. So that's actually really nice. So it's very important right at the beginning. You got to take care of those cruisers that spawn on the 10 line in those grid squares that I mentioned. Again, about F10 and C9, C10, something like that. You got to take care of those guys really early on, or your planes are not going to be able to make it. Now, something else that you see in the secondary task, you have to save at least 3 forts, and there's a total of 4 of them around the friendly airfield. You can see that 2 of them are on the island in D6. There's 1 at the southern tip of the sea island at D5, and there is a further one at B6 that you have to be able to save. Now, they do have a lot of hit points, 80,000 apiece, but they do take damage very heavily, specifically from enemy battleships. So you do have to be mindful of that as well. Anyway, for our purposes, getting back to the gameplay, 1349 left in the game. I've been able to accumulate 3 kills, which is pretty nice. And if you're wondering why I'm shooting armor-piercing shot at these angled cruisers, it's because ships like the Phoenix, the Omaha, the Marblehead, they just don't have the bow armor to be able to stand up to 8-inch armor-piercing shot. As a matter of fact, at close range, you can actually get citadels, as you see right there, about 10,000 points of damage. You can get citadels with 152mm guns. I don't remember the number off the top of my head. My gut is telling me 13mm, but it doesn't matter. You're able to just penetrate right through an angled ship like that. You can see 3 penetrating hits, and I'm able to take care of the enemy Phoenix for my 4th frag of the game. Now, something else to note, as you can see on Echo 6, there is a engineering wrench there. That is an aid station, so to speak, where if you go inside of the circle, your ship will regain hit points automatically, which is really nice. And, you know, if you're hurting at the beginning of the game, it's very imperative that you get over there and try to get behind the nice island cover. Now, luckily for us, there's actually a lot of island cover next to that aid station, so to speak, the repair shop, I guess. So it's nice. If you do have a lot of hit points taken away very early on, you can make your way over there and utilize the islands that kind of run up to it. You can see those islands on the 9 line. They kind of turn to the left and kind of lead you right towards the repair site. You know, it's very nice to be able to use those. As you see my buddy Spider right there, he's below half health. He had to use one of his smoke screens, so as soon as this enemy Omaha is taken care of, then he's going to be able to move up and get some heal going. So far, so good. Things are going pretty nicely. Now, you see that there is another secondary task, and it's destroy the enemy aircraft carrier Raptor. So, spawning down in the H2 sector, you can see that there's an enemy Ranger that is down there. Now, that it does have an escort of a Cleveland-class cruiser, so you do have to be mindful of that if you're trying to assault it. And once all of the cruisers are taken care of and you're kind of consolidating your positions around the airfield, you can see on the mini-map there are just dozens and dozens of planes that are flying into the airfield. Once all of those guys land, the next stage of the combat begins. Now, again, as I mentioned, there is the Ranger down by H2 that is going to be moving north and launching airstrikes. There's going to be dive bombers and fighter aircraft that are going to be coming over the 3 and 4 line over by the airfield. And then what's going to happen for the next part of the surface combat, you can see that there is a lot of enemy cruisers spawning on the 1 and 2 line over next to the aircraft carrier. Now, sometimes they do spawn around the area of H4, H5. It is randomized. Again, I've played about a dozen battles so far on this, and I've noticed that they spawn more towards the west over by the carrier more often than not. You can see there's 2 Phoenixes, and there's an Omaha, and of course the Cleveland was also spotted as well. And there's always a couple of enemy destroyers that are over there as well. Now, once again, another secondary task has popped up on screen. You can see destroy 2 ships that are being attacked by the aerodrome squadrons within the allocated time. So what's going to happen is that a certain enemy ship is going to have a timer placed above him. You can see the attack has just appeared over Foxtrot 2, which is that enemy Omaha class cruiser. And when he gets close enough, you're going to see a timer, and you have to kill him within that certain amount of time, or you're not going to be able to complete one of the secondary tasks. And of course, if you don't complete all of the secondary tasks, then that means that you do not get the 5 stars. So, getting some more shots downrange at these enemy cruisers. You can see that they are assaulting. Within a couple of minutes, you're going to hear the commander tell you that there are enemy destroyers inbound. Now, these enemy destroyers, they usually spawn around Gulf 5, Gulf 6, H5, H6 in that area, and there's usually a trio of them. I think it's a Mahan, and there's also... Oh boy, that was actually a really nice hit there on that Omaha. Very nice stuff. There's a Nicholas, there's a Mahan, and there's something else. I think it's a Sims that moved to the north, due north towards the repair site. So you have to be careful about that. And look at that, another triple Citadel salvo there on the Phoenix. 2 very meaty salvos. That is why this Pensacola just has some insane AP shot. You get 10 guns, you can do a lot of damage to those guys, and you certainly have seen it with the last couple of salvos. So you can see right here, the enemy aircraft carrier has since been spotted. My buddy in the Nelson Big Bongs is slowly creeping forward, and he's going to try to get some shots at the carrier once all of these enemy cruisers are taken care of. My next salvo going down range at the Phoenix. I aimed just a little bit too far to the left, but no matter. The Phoenix does get taken care of, and then the second Phoenix, which is still shooting at me, is going to be taken care of here any second now. Now you can see there's a Farragut and a Sims that are also down there providing screen for the Cleveland and the Ranger. That doesn't necessarily happen all the time, at least as far as I'm aware. I'm not 100% sure if those ships do spawn down there, but the whole gist of it is that if you detach forces to go and try to take care of the Ranger, if he stays down there in H2, it can actually be a bit of a problem, because then your forces start to get a little bit too separated. And it's an adventure that I don't necessarily recommend, but if you do really need to get the aircraft carrier killed, then you kind of have to make that push. But you can see that there are 2 friendly battleships that are making their way down towards the carrier, and they are both shooting at him, which is really nice. So that's all good stuff. Now, you're going to see here, there's an enemy Colorado and there's an enemy Phoenix that are moving due northeast down there in the I and H6 grid squares. And again, as I mentioned, these enemy destroyers that I've spoken about will be coming and will be spawning in any moment now, I believe. So I'm getting some shots now downrange. I'm going to go back to the repair station to get full hit points once again before the next big engagement happens. And you can see that there's only 7 minutes and 52 seconds left in the game. Now, once you get to about 5.5 minutes left, there's going to be one more big enemy push, and it's going to have, quote-unquote, the boss. There's going to be an enemy Tier 8 battleship. I believe it's in Alabama. Sometimes it's in North Carolina. We'll be moving in from the E9, E10 grid squares. So these 3 enemy DDs that are coming, in this case 2 Mahans and a Farragut, you really do have to kill them very, very quickly. Because if you take too much time trying to get to these guys, then they're going to be able to get up next to the repair site and pretty much put pressure upon the entirety of the map. And it can be a little bit difficult to deal with. So as you can see there, the clock continues to count down 7 minutes and 13 seconds. I land a very nice high explosive hit there on the enemy Farragut. But yeah, you have to be very vigilant and not let these enemy DDs get too close to the aid station, because if you do, then it's going to be a very difficult time. And they're also going to get within effective range of the forts. Now, I do manage to get my 5th kill of the game, and I'm up to 133,000 points of damage, which is very, very nice. And I get my next high explosive salvo going down range at the enemy Colorado. However, you can see I am loading the armor-piercing shot because I do see that the Phoenix is providing well enough of a broadside for me to be able to get some really nice shots, and that HE salvo was very, very good on the enemy Colorado. So the guns are getting reloaded here, shots are out, the accuracy, the dispersion, not very good, but I still managed to get almost 7,000 points of damage with 1 Citadel penetration, so that's really nice. You can see that the airfield still has 30,000 hit points. It hasn't taken a lick. None of our forts, I believe, have taken a lick, but there we go. With about 6 minutes left in the game, you can see there's a New Orleans, there's a North Carolina, and there is an enemy Cleveland that have spawned over in that area that I spoke of. So Ooh, there we go. I get a detonation there on the Mahan. Fun and engaging for the bots. Still manages to happen every now and then. But you can see there, I do have to turn away from those enemy ships because if I continued on my path over there, it would not be looking good. You can also see some enemy shell fire coming from that group of ships as well. Very unfortunately for me, I was not expecting the Mahan to get off a widespread of torpedoes. And yes, I know, widespread, da-da-da-da-da, whatever. I take one torpedo right underneath the two smokestacks for about 10,000 points of damage. I'm looking to get the next shot, the killing blow here on the enemy Mahan. Will I be able to get it? Yes, I do. However, unfortunately, since he was able to make his way through the little narrow channel right there, I still have to be vigilant for any torpedoes that he might have dropped. There's 5:24 left in the game, and as I mentioned earlier, the enemy push, the very final enemy push, is finally materializing there. I'm trying to get out of dodge here, and then all of a sudden the torpedoes spawn. My repair is still on cooldown, but very luckily for me, the bot chose to drop more widespread torpedoes. That's the only thing about the bot AI that I'm not really sure about. Not 100% sure why they all drop widespread torpedoes. Hey, whatever. So, what have you seen so far? Everybody actually, so far, is doing pretty well health point-wise. If you concentrate all of your forces around the repair site, move some heavy units to the west to deal with the carrier, and then move everybody back to deal with the DDs that are pushing from the north, and then the enemy battle group that appears to the east, that's honestly been the recipe for success. In some of the other games that we've managed to do, you know, even being able to get 4 stars is very impressive for this one because it's just so difficult. But to get those 5 stars, you really need to be aggressive and try to get that aircraft carrier out as soon as possible. Now, why the aircraft carrier stayed in the little crevasse there in the H2 islands, I'm not 100% sure. Most of the games that I've seen, the enemy aircraft carrier does move around and ends up trying to retreat to the south down the 1 line. So, not 100% sure why the AI chose to not do that in this one, but hey, you know what? Beggars can't be choosers, and we took care of business. So at this point, we just got to keep those enemy ships from getting too close to the forts. Now, you can see that they are opening up on some of them, and some of the forts, specifically Fort 3 and 4, are taking a bit of damage, but you know what? That's A-okay. Even if we do lose one, that's fine. We just got to make sure it is not 2. And you can see the forts are still as OP as ever, as the Sims and the Farragut both got taken care of by those ridiculously overpowered things. You guys remember the Bastion game mode all the way a long time ago? I mean, those forts were incredible, and I guess they're still going to be incredible here in operations as well. Anyway, getting the armor-piercing shot loaded here for the enemy New Orleans Zulu 1. The salvo going down range. The dispersion looks fantastic. And another triple Citadel. 17,500 points of damage dealt to that guy. Very good stuff. I saw that the North Carolina shot at somebody else, so I feel confident enough to open up broadside to get another full broadside off at the enemy New Orleans before I start to angle back towards that American BB. I get Citadel number 14 of the contest, sinking my 8th ship of the game, and now I'm looking for a nice and juicy armor-piercing shot into this North Carolina's broadside. And once we are able to take care of business on this guy, we will have won and gotten our 5 stars. And look at that, 9,200 damage right on the broadside of that guy. Everybody is shooting at him. We did lose one of the forts, so I guess technically this wasn't a perfect operation for us. But you know what? If we only lost 1 fort, and that was the only black eye on an otherwise stellar resume for this game, then you know that's okay. I just managed to crack 200,000 points of damage in the Pensacola, which is honestly pretty impressive considering the ship does have a very long reload. And with 2 minutes and 22 seconds left in the game, we managed to defend the aerodrome, and we've completed all of the objectives. So the game still has to catch up, and there's basically just going to be us sailing around for the next couple of minutes until the game ends and let the shenanigans commence because there's no team damage. So getting dropped on torpedoes. Very nice, very nice. So let's take a look at the post-battle results. Alrighty guys, taking a look now at the post-battle results. 381,000 credits received and just over 10,000 total experience earned, as well as 4.4k free XP. I of course had some camo and flags on for that. I picked up a trio of medals, not 100% sure what they mean, but I'm pretty sure the one at the end means I dealt a lot of damage to a lot of different ships because it looks like the Confederate medal. I dealt just over 200,000 points of damage off of 179 shell hits. I shot down 7 enemy planes, sank 8 enemy vessels, 5 fires, 14 citadels, and 1 cheeky secondary hit. Taking a look at the team score, top of the leaderboards, 2,200 base XP, followed in place by my buddy Elastic Spider with 2 kills, my buddy 901 with 2 kills, Captain Tyrael with 7, and Big Bongs rounding out the APOC with 2 kills himself. So that's what, 15, 17, 19, 21 of the 25 enemy ships taken care of. So a very nice result right there. Taking a look at the detailed report, 139,000 damage dealt with the AP, 47 with the HE, and 13,000 dealt with the fires. And then the one cheeky secondary hit that did manage to find contact had 594 damage dealt. So that's pretty funny stuff right there. So yeah, that is a 5-star operation, and I cannot stress it enough how difficult these bots can be. If you get caught out of position, they are brutal. They have aim better than some of the best players in the game. It's ridiculous. So definitely your best bet is, you know, get a whole bunch of dudes together, division up, get all your best ships ready, get all your best captains ready, and have a battleship or 2, have a carrier. In my opinion, is very important. Take care of the enemy ships on the peripheries, peripheral, whatever the word is. Get your way up to the aid station, take care of all the enemy ships in due course, and then basically concentrate around there to use your AA bubbles to be able to take care of enemy aircraft from the carrier. Send some ships just further enough west to be able to get spots on the carrier, take care of business, and then hightail it back. Get ready for the destroyer push on the friendly aid station, take care of all those DDs, and then, of course, lastly, repel the enemy assault from the eastern side of the map. And that's how I've been able to take care of business. So I really hope you guys enjoyed this. I know that we don't usually do the scenario battles, the missions on our channel, but if you'd like to see more of these, please let us know. It's not something that we're going to do very often, but if you want to see more of this stuff, again, please let us know in the comments below. So with that being said, this is, of course, the Sneaky Snake for Brothers in Arms World of Warships signing off. Guys and gals, please consider giving the video a like, commenting on it, or possibly subscribing to the channel. All of it is very much appreciated, and have a great day.